So this is a topic I haven't really been covering much because I kind of feel like I'm complaining or whining too much if I bring this things up. But I probably should do more because a lot of people like this, and I think a lot of people feel that way, that they're complaining, that they're whining, that because they find something hard or obnoxious or difficult or unjust, that they find it that way just because they're a wuss or a weakling or they can't handle it. Not that it's complete bullshit. And in this case, it's the latter. It's complete bullshit. So this is unpaid internships. Fortunately, I didn't have to go through any of this. The internships I did were paid, but some people I know had to go through a lot of these. And it's the same every time. They hold this promise of maybe hiring you at the end over your head. They don't pay you. In fact, it's kind of a transfer of wealth from you to the company. Because in a lot of cases, you have to spend money on things like gas. Like if if the unpaid internship makes you drive around as part of the job, they probably aren't going to reimburse you for that, or if you have to commute to the job. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of a transfer of wealth from you to them. And it's arguably a worse economic arrangement than slavery because slaves had to be fed and clothed. The other thing is, at least in countries with reasonably high amounts of reasonably low time preference, it wasn't really in your best interest to horribly mistreat your slaves or they'd be incapable of performing work. And in this case, because I think I remember reading it cost about as much as like a Ferrari to purchase one, but this is in that respect worse from an economic standpoint. And when you're starting to compare a position you're in to chattel slavery and coming up the loser, that's really not a good sign. But I digress. So unpaid internships in the Employment Standards Act. So I just want to look at the criteria the government the government has laid out and see if 90% or the vast majority of unpaid internships are legal under the current law. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm someone who speaks the English language. So we'll see if, like, someone with a working knowledge of English would necessarily probably come to the same conclusion as me. Oh, and there's something some companies have started to do is because if people call them on this, they say they're volunteering. They're volunteering at my insurance company. They're volunteering to help to make me money. That's what the volunteering. They're volunteering to do work to make me money. They're volunteering to, I don't know, make shekels in my factory for just build them, and that is helping society. I mean, it kind of makes sense if, I don't know, if it's like a hospital or a school or something, but even then, it's just a way to scam people out of paid labor. I mean, if you want to volunteer, fine. My point is using things that are obviously unpaid internships and just reclassifying them as volunteering as a way to get around labor laws is pretty scummy. If someone actually wants to donate their time, then that's another thing, but I think that makes sense. So a person who performs work for an organization is an employee unless he or she is in business for themselves. Uh-oh. If she performs a work for an organization. So that would, yeah. As an employee, he or she is generally entitled to all of the rights under the Employment Standards Act, including minimum wage. There are some exceptions, but they are very limited. Very limited, implying that not like 90% of internships are unpaid. Unpaid internships are illegal under under Ontario law unless they fall within an exception. One possible exception is a trainee. Trainees, however, will generally be considered employees for the purposes of the ESA and therefore must be paid unless all of the conditions are met below. Okay, so does not apply to true volunteers. Okay. Okay, so just before we get into this, The legal test for true volunteer arrangement uses several factors, but merely agreeing to work without pay does not make you a volunteer. Okay, so even if you say it's a volunteer, it doesn't necessarily make that. So, this is the criteria for an unpaid internship. 1, the training is similar to that which is given at a vocational school. I don't think that's it in the vast majority of cases. The internships I did, they didn't... Well, I was paid, so that doesn't count. But in a lot of cases, they just kind of throw you in there. Like, they don't really do any training. They just make you immediately start working. A lot of the time, they don't even... they're like, we don't have time to deal with you. Just here's a pile of stuff just to start working on it. So it's just... No, I don't think that's the case in the vast majority of places. I could see maybe if you're doing like an apprenticeship, they might be teaching you that. But no, I think in the vast majority of cases, they just use you for normal labor. And if you happen to learn something, then that's nice. But I don't think formal training is part of it. Some benefit is received by the trainee from the training, such as new knowledge or skills. Okay, fair enough. I think in most cases the trainee does get it. But in a lot of cases, I think they just use them for labor. Like I said, they might just use them for like menial labor. Like one internship I did was, which I was paid minimum wage for, but was just scanning documents, which was literally all I did was just filing all day, every day for like a month, which wasn't that bad because I had like audiobooks. So I would just listen to audiobooks while I did it, but it was still really long, boring days. So, I mean, was that benefit? I don't know. Okay, let's see here. The employer, well, once again, I was being paid for that. So if I wasn't being paid, then yeah, that wouldn't count. The employer derives little, if any, benefit from the activity of the trainee while he or she is being trained. That is 100%, like in no case is that the truth. It's the people I know, they've made them work like 50, 60 hours a week doing, like I said, the exact same kind of work a normal employee would do. In fact, they make them work more hours because them not being an employee means they don't have to pay them and they don't have contractual obligations to them. So they can make them stay as long as they want, and it's not an equal relationship. Because at least in kind of a normal employment relationship, particularly if you're working for a small or medium-sized company, getting a replacement for you, training a replacement and integrating them to the team is very costly and time-consuming. A lot of HR people list retaining talent as being like a really big HR problem that they're facing. So that all being said, yeah. So, no, I mean, this is obviously not true in the vast majority of cases. Once again, if this is a paid internship, that's different, but even paid internships are often nonsensical. It's often they're just using you as a temp and there's no real training involved. The trainee does not take someone else's job, which is patently untrue, even if it's only a temp place. Even if it's only, even if you're just doing, I don't know, like you're doing an internship and then they make you go and do like events, like handing out flyers or that kind of thing for the company. That's taking a job they would have had to hire someone to do. So I think in the vast majority of cases, that's not the case. Every time I've ever heard someone talk about having an unpaid internship, it's been within the context of, oh, it'd be too expensive to hire someone. Let's get some thirsty intern to do the work so then we don't have to pay somebody to do it. So, I mean, that's, yeah. The employer is not promising a job at the end of the training. Keyword here is promising. It's often very strongly implied. Or what they'll do is they'll have a company where they'll hire like they'll enslave 5 unpaid interns and one of them will get the job. And then they'll make them compete against each other. And, yeah, well, they won't pay any of them for their labor, but one of them might get paid at some point in the future, possibly. So it's like there's that, plus there's the idea that because everybody's offering unpaid internships and it's so hard to get entry level work, the hope is eventually, if you suffer through one of these unpaid internships long enough, somebody is going to give you something. Somebody's going to give you a job. So I mean, it's not there, but it's implied, and they will imply it in order to get you to go above and beyond the call of duty. The trainee has been told that he or she will not be paid for his or her time. That's probably true in the majority of cases. I've seen people get honey-dicked on this one, where I remember there's a couple people I know who went for these, and they promised them money, but they refused to give them contracts. They were like, oh, we don't do contracts here. Contracts are like so stuffy, etc. We'll just make sure we pay you. Don't you want my banking information? Oh, we'll get that when it's time to pay you. And then they didn't pay them. Also, it's sometimes implicit that there'll be some sort of bonus at the end to cover some of it. So, the ESA does not prohibit an employer from hiring as an employee someone who is a former unpaid trainee who met all of the 6 conditions above. So yeah, so I think I've pretty much shown, just think about these 6 principles and try to apply them, and just think to yourself, does any internship I've ever heard of meet these 6? Or were those people just scamming the kids in question? And I gotta keep bringing this up because this is nonsense. People complain about millennials. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, they go to school for too long. Oh, they live with their parents. Well, how the fuck are they supposed to deal with any of this stuff if this is what it takes to get a job? And it's not like the government actually enforces any of this crap. No, you have to basically go and sue them personally. Or you have to go in and directly snitch on your business. There's nothing wrong with snitching on your business, I think. But good luck ever trying to get hired by anyone. The second anyone brings up employment law or things you're entitled to as a worker, you're probably going to start getting shafted. But that being said, I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll talk to you guys later.